The old you is vanishing. The new you is being born. Your body is changing. Your soul is becoming stronger. You're not the same person you were before. You are leaving behind all of your weights and shackles, which are slowing you down. The weight of the past. At the moment, a profound revolution is taking place inside you. That aged, exhausted body, the anxieties, concerns, and defeats that have held you back are vanishing. One by one, like flames emerging from the ashes. The new you is arising. You are picked. The traps are laid against you. The hurdles in front of you can no longer deter you because the divine force inside you propels you farther than you have ever gone. Your old body, ideas, and restrictions are dying. The new you is born stronger, smarter, and more fearless. Your moment has arrived. Leave a comment. Please write. Let rid of the old you. Let rid of anything that keeps you tiny. Because the route in front of you is only for the strong. You no longer exist to bear the weight of the past, but to go towards your future accomplishments. What emerges before you is not just victory, but overpowering dominance. The foes who formerly collaborated against you are now ineffective, their resistance dissolving into obscurity. No power they wielded, no coalition they formed, could stop your unrelenting progress. They have exhausted every plot and depleted every resource, yet they remain impotent in the face of obvious fact. What looked to be a struggle has turned into a thorough demolition of their basis. The tides have not only moved, they've devoured the earth under their feet, leaving them stuck in their own demise. Their last defenses fall, their sounds fade into nothingness, and their destiny is sealed. Examine the current moment, and you will see the fall of those who formerly desired dominance over you. They stood tall and arrogant, assuming that their deception would strengthen them. But now their own words betray them. The weight of their lies has driven them into a trap of their own devising. They used their might to orchestrate your defeat. Yet it is their own barricades that are crumbling. The same fire that propelled them to prominence is now dragging them down. They are ghosts of their former selves, trapped in the ruins of their goals. They no longer strategize. They scurry, anxious to avoid the unavoidable repercussions of their own actions. The forces that maintain equilibrium have passed judgment, rejecting their own nature. The natural order has no space for the toxins they spread, so it expels them with utter certainty. They used to hide in the shadows, certain that they were untouchable. However, the light has stripped them naked. The whispers they used to persuade others now seem empty and worthless. They previously lived on deceit, but now the illusion is broken, leaving them with nothing but the shards of their own demise. They depart not with the force they previously wielded, but as leftovers of failed plans, simple parts of a tale that must come to an end. Every move they devised, every trick they launched, has been met with brutal force. The elaborate plans they constructed have turned inward, entangling them in the same traps they laid for others. The instruments they polished for combat have dulled in their hands, leaving them helpless. Every lie they propagate comes back to them not as whispers, but as incontrovertible facts, revealing their motive. Their efforts to denigrate you have only increased your strength, strengthening your name while weakening theirs. They spent years building a battlefield only to find themselves stranded inside it, abandoned by the same armies they once led. If you are experiencing an excess of divine love in your heart, now is the moment to share it. You may help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and donating $100 or more. This wonderful gift will affect not just your life, but the souls of countless others via this platform. Each of you has a special role in God's big plan, and your giving will be the result of our prayers. Act now. Share your benefits to honor His kingdom. You were meant to do much bigger things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. Their previously successful methods have now failed them. Their authority dwindles with each passing instant, their well-prepared foundations collapsing with irreparable harm. The equipment under their control fails. Systems that were previously efficient are now falling into chaos. What was once a measured onslaught has become chaotic despair. Every deliberate motion has lost its direction. Every well-placed blow has missed. Their formerly coordinated activities have devolved into conflict. Their operations are failing due to internal cracks. The strategies they trusted have failed them, and they are in chaos, unable to retake control. Their battle on perception, their efforts to distort truth, has reached a breaking point. They can no longer claim innocence or alter the story. What was once a precise game has evolved into a ridiculous circus. They wore masks. The illusions they created have shattered in plain daylight. Their once subtle maneuvers now look clunky and blatant, like a badly staged performance. They struggled to keep control. In their desperation, they abandoned any appearance of rationality. They no longer conceal their hostility. It flows uncontrolled from them, exposing the depths of their depravity to everybody. The desperation that drives their deeds has revealed their essence. They have removed the remaining shreds of their disguise, revealing to the world who they really are. The fake dignity in which they disguise themselves is beyond repair. The more they struggle to maintain control, the more it slips away from them. Like sand, through clenched fist. Every effort to re-establish stability simply strengthens their unstable party. The more they push, the quicker they fall, entangled in the same forces they attempted to harness. What was previously meticulously planned is now collapsing into chaos, with nothing left for them to recover. The tide has turned permanently, and what was once ferocious opposition has degraded into pure despair. Their formerly measured tactics have devolved into chaotic flailing, motivated by the desperate knowledge that nothing they do can save their position. The weight of approaching failure pounds on them, transforming confidence into panic. Their once arrogant voices now shake with uneasiness, breaking under the pressure of keeping up a veneer that has long ago crumbled. Their allegations become more outrageous, their statements removed from truth, revealing not their target, but their own disintegration. They concoct intricate tales in order to sway the narrative in their favor. However, every paradox they create just tightens the noose around them. With no plan to fall back on, they become irresponsible. They are scattering their meager resources in an effort to maintain relevance. There is no logic, patience, or methodical approach, but frenzied pounding against a result. They no longer have control. Assets designed for long-term use are wasted in an instant. Allies, once believed crucial, were abandoned in a state of blind terror. As internal turbulence emerges, they are sacrificing the foundation they have meticulously established in an attempt to postpone the inevitable. Fingers pointed in all directions. Blame spreads among them like wildfire, devouring what little trust remained. The once unified front fractures into distinct groups, each attempting to remove itself from the devastation. They expected a reaction, hoped for an emotional response, and waited for the time when their target would interact on their terms. Instead, they were confronted with something considerably more catastrophic: silence. Their whole plan was based on provocation, but their frantic appeals went unanswered, leaving them clutching for shadows. Each effort to do damage results in icy indifference, and the emptiness where they anticipated resistance becomes an agonizing anguish. The weight of their own techniques falls on them, destroying all sense of control. They failed to see that genuine strength was never about retribution, but about unflinching determination in the face of adversity. They gathered like scavengers, waiting for their victim to fail. They were eager to exploit vulnerability, yet the pressure they applied proved to be their downfall. Their constant pursuit exhausted them, undermining their foundations until nothing remained to support them. While they were intent on destruction, their foe was focused on building and exhausted all of their energy. Tearing down their opponent kept them focused on progress even as they spent themselves in fight. The opposite side prospered with steadfast purpose. They believed they were controlling the terms, but in the end, they just expedited their own demise. Their deceit was meticulous. Their prophecies were expressed with conviction. But as reality unfolded, every assertion they made was crushed by the unwavering reality. The more they clung to their contrived story, the more clear their mistakes became. The gap between their claims and the irrefutable facts expanded into an insurmountable chasm. Their fervent assertions were received not with opposition, but with seamless clarity as they yelled. Their enemy maintained composure while they struck out aggressively. The answer was calm and methodical. Their hysterics simply confirmed the reality, revealing their disintegration for everyone to witness. The revelation dawns on them slowly at first, and then with devastating finality. They are not confronting a declining opponent, but one who has become stronger. They attempted to break what couldn't be broken. They expected opposition to undermine their rival's determination, only to discover that it strengthened it into something unbreakable. What they perceived for weakness was the furnace in which resilience was created. And when the truth becomes clear, it deals a crushing blow. Taking away any last pretense that they still wield power, their efforts to weaken their opponent have instead made them invincible, assuring that there would be no recovery from their loss. There is no regrouping, comeback, or second chance. The unraveling is complete. Those who previously stood by their side are now fleeing, desperate to distance themselves from imminent disaster. What was once a powerful empire is now a desolate wasteland, abandoned even by those who once pledged allegiance. There is no recovering of lost credibility. There is no restoring what has been permanently shattered. They've become relics of their own failure, with their legacy reduced to a cautionary story. The game they played so viciously has eaten them, and all that is left is the stillness of their own irrelevance. The balance of destiny has never been more exact. Every act of evil they committed is now returning to them in full force, with no space for escape. The forces that regulate balance have executed their sentence without hesitation, guaranteeing that what was sowed in falsehood has now been harvested in ruin. Every charge they leveled was only a mirror of their own faults. Their own dishonesty exposed the responsibilities they wanted to impose. Others now hold them down, forcing them into an abyss of their own creation. The false narratives they previously propagated are now nothing more than broken echoes in a world that no longer listens. Their final move is one of retreat rather than fight. They are stripped of all illusions, not merely from the combat, but also from the very identity they formerly held to as they planned the magnificent display. Built on conviction and overconfidence, it has reached its inevitable end. The effort they used in deleting others has resulted in their erasure. The constant pursuit of destruction has resulted in self-depletion rather than supremacy. Their drive has ended, and all that remains is the collapsing of a foundation too weak to withstand the weight of its own depravity. The energy they previously projected forth has started to consume them from inside, reducing them to shards of what they once claimed to be. The space they formerly filled now actively rejects them, as if existence itself refuses to hold what has been polluted beyond recovery. The collapse is not a show, but rather a revelation. Those who once protected them, who once stood shoulder to shoulder in shared desire, now disperse in all directions, desperate to avoid affiliation. Their most loyal associates flee, some in quiet disappointment, others in blatant treachery, seeking to remove themselves from an uncontrollable disintegration. The fabric of their authority, which was once tightly knit, has unraveled into strands too thin to contain any power. The same factors they depended on for support are now serving as catalysts for their demise. What was previously deemed impregnable has become weak, delicate, and unsalvageable. The last blow is delivered from inside their own fortifications, not by an external force. Those who formerly sworn fealty are now dismantling the remaining traces of their dying kingdom. The truths they had buried have now spilled forth unfettered and irreversibly. They were previously guardians of information, but now it is being used against them. The voices who once sang their praises now whisper the specifics of their demise. Tell the audience that the gathering for adulation has transformed into a tribunal of reckoning. They are no longer leaders, feared, or adored. They are abandoned relics, testimony to a misplaced ambition that has met its end. What they aim to establish has crumbled under the weight of its own contradictions, rather than due to resistance. Their efforts to conceal the truth, to create an image that would survive, failed due to the enormity of their own contradictions. What was previously well planned has collapsed, unable to maintain the illusion any longer. The power they tried so hard to repress has become even stronger. Their statements have lost their potency as they become more irrelevant. Their presence no longer draws notice. The mob that once followed them has turned away, unimpressed, indifferent, and reluctant to participate in a failed farce. The tide of public opinion, which was formerly managed in their favor, is now moving inexorably against them. What started as scattered misgivings has turned into an overpowering flood of discontent. Those who formerly backed them are now quick to establish their distance, preferring to claim ignorance over affiliation. Every previous action is reevaluated, every previous phrase examined, and with each disclosure, their credibility dwindles. The oneness they once claimed has been shattered into 1,000 irreparable fissures. The movement they once led has grown too weighty for even its members to bear. Their presence is no longer feared or significant. It's only a memory fading quicker than they believed possible. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace come upon you today. I'm here to remind you of a fundamental fact. Our existence is based on God's divine purpose and is unaffected by worldly worries. According to the Bible, everything is done with faith will be returned to God with great blessing. Luke, our roots, like those of the huge oak tree, are firmly entrenched in God's universal truth. His power secures every stride and every stance we take. And now you have the chance to be a part of that gift. When you utilize the super thank you button and contribute $100, you will get a 100-fold return on your investment. Their formerly strong voice, magnified over several venues, is now smothered by the weight of inescapable fact. Every effort to reclaim control, to change the narrative, just hastens their demise. The stage they once dominated has become the source of their greatest disgrace. The identical tools they used to ascend have now become the means of their downfall. They talk, but nobody listens. They take charge, but nobody follows. They grab for the power they previously possessed, only to find nothing. Their decline is irrevocable. Their collapse, watched throughout their lives, was reduced to the result of their own decisions. What was intended to weaken you has instead made you invincible. The fight they fought against you served as a forge for the refinement of your strength. Every effort to reduce your existence has strengthened your foundation. Every attempt to pull you down has propelled you to new heights. While others fall under the weight of their own misdeeds, you go on, unwavering, unbothered, unstoppable. What they thought for weakness turned out to be incredible endurance. They mistook vulnerability for patience, which they didn't comprehend. You have not just survived their attack, you have surpassed it. Standing on the verge of something much larger than they ever anticipated, the fight they started has completely devoured them, leaving nothing but turmoil of their own creation as they sink further into the disarray they caused. You ascend unshaken. They are evolving into an unanticipated power. Their resilience was originally intended to deteriorate. Instead, you've been the driving force behind your metamorphosis. The challenges they set in your way have only honed your instincts, generating within you a power that exceeds all past limits. Every effort to damage your reputation has only strengthened your legacy. What was previously debatable is now undeniable. Those who questioned have seen the incontrovertible evidence. What was said against you was never true, but rather desperate fabrications by individuals who have now lost their footing. The aftermath of this war has clarified previously ambiguous differences. The fake has been peeled away, leaving simply the unmistakable contrast of destruction and creation, authenticity and deceit. The resistance that once threatened to shatter your foundations has instead honed them, making them unassailable. What was designed to obscure your vision has instead brought it into clearer focus, showing the way ahead with unequivocal clarity. In attempting to remove you, your mission has been enlarged. They just made you difficult to ignore. They have exhausted their ability to resist. Every strategy has failed. All efforts have been made useless. No modifications, reinforcements, or frantic recalibration can save what has already crumbled. The resources they spent throughout their failed battle have ran out. Their network of power was destroyed by their frequent failures. The very alliances they relied on have shattered under the weight of internal guilt and strain. There is no longer even the will to fight. The fire that once fueled them has consumed everything, leaving only embers too feeble to rekindle. What once blazed with rage has extinguished itself, devoured by its own excess. The power that once appeared unstoppable has exhausted its own foundation, leaving only empty fragments of its previous intensity. There is no heroic retreat or planned withdrawal, just an inexorable, complete surrender. There is no illusion about their failure. There will be no more attempts at misinformation. This is finality, not because it is stated, but because it is unavoidable. They have not only lost the war, but also their basic sense of significance, like chaff in the wind. When the harvest is complete, they disperse, hoping that the storm would forget them. However, the time for reckoning has arrived, and the holy hands that separate wheat from trash do not hesitate. Some slink away into the shadows, disappearing like morning mist, certain that if they are unnoticed, they will likewise be forgotten. But the weight of their decisions clings to them like a name in stone. Others race to rewrite the tale, fumbling with words, attempting to persuade the public and themselves that they were never genuinely against you, that their hearts were never in sync with dishonesty. They reinvent their roles, aiming to leave no trace in the dust. However, fate does not show them such leniency. The truth has been stated. The record is set. Then there are others who cling to vestiges of pride, constructing flimsy explanations in an attempt to recover a reputation that has long ago vanished. They seek an answer that will redeem them, but the opportunity has gone. There is no bargaining to be done. There is no last argument to change the conclusion. The barricades they created to keep the truth hidden have crumbled, and they now stand exposed, helpless to deny the inevitable. But none of it matters. Their voices, once loud and confident, now have no weight. Their well-planned activities now stand as monuments to their own demise. The conclusion stays the same regardless of how they phrase their leave, whether they go silently or in protest. They didn't just lose a battle. They have lost their standing, their effect, their exact spot in the tale. This is not a setback from which they will recover, not a brief pullback before a rebound. No, this is the last chapter. The last phrase, when the curtain lowers and the lights dim, because they did not fight only against you. They fought against a heavenly movement, a higher calling, and a flow beyond their control. And by doing so, they assured their own oblivion. It was never a competition of strength. Never consider strategy. Never discuss their schemes or intentions. It was always about the truth, and the truth will not give. It's time to spread God's blessings by pressing the super thank you button on YouTube. With a $100 payment or more, you may help him carry out his plan and become a part of this heavenly mission. Every contribution symbolizes God's generosity, and I think it will return to you enormously, far above your expectations. Remember that his protection and blessing are with you at all times, including your donations. You become a part of his divine plan. You are a powerful, dazzling entity, as solid as the massive rock that saw God's marvels. Feel the rewards of your kindness in your spirit, and light up the world with confidence and bravery. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord lead you. What follows is the deafening stillness of an absolute triumph that leaves no opportunity for further resistance. No more whispering campaigns. No more intricate plots or hollow threats. The noise that used to poison the air is no longer present, leaving a place where your voice may finally be heard clearly. This is not a momentary move, not even a single moment of relief. This is the construction of a new system in which your success is no longer debatable. This triumph isn't limited to the moment. It is the basis of something much bigger. The echoes of this instant will reverberate throughout time, indicating the point when everything changed. Historians will study it, philosophers will dissect it, and future generations will remember it as the moment when delusion shattered and truth took its proper place. And suddenly, every door that was before locked is open. Every previously obstructed passage has now been freed. The energy that was previously necessary for conflict is now free to be employed for something better. The boundaries that formerly existed have been obliterated, allowing for limitless innovation. Those who opposed you have become irrelevant. They were left behind by the same development they were attempting to impede. They submit not because they want to, but because no other option exists. The curtain has fallen on their thwarted goals, and the scene is poised for the next chapter. This is not only a win, it is the unfolding of destiny, not the end of their reign, but the genuine start of yours.